The newly appointed CEO's gaze was intense and full of determination. It was he who had decisively ended our marriage 6 months ago. During the staff meeting, the supervisor smiled obsequiously and spoke into the microphone. "Let's give a warm welcome to James Foster, the new Vice President of the North American region, as he officially joins our company." For a moment, I was dazed and thought I had misheard the name. But when James Foster appeared on stage in his fitted suit, exuding an aura of authority and elegance, I realized I hadn't misheard. Wow, I didn't expect the new VP to be so young and handsome. I always thought he was an older man. I heard he's divorced, no kids, a real eligible bachelor. His ex-wife must be blind. If he were mine, I'd never let him go. Come on, stop dreaming. Do you really think the CEO would notice someone like us? Keep dreaming. My colleagues chattered excitedly about James Foster, some even eager to get his contact information. "Hey Lisa, why are you daydreaming? Aren't you going to check out the handsome guy?" I calmly organized my files. "I don't think he's that handsome, just average." A colleague glanced at me and muttered under her breath. "An old maid nobody wants, acting all high and mighty." I smiled and pretended not to hear. Next came the raffle draw, with the grand prize being a smart air conditioner. When the winner was announced, James Foster's throat moved, and he slowly uttered 2 words. "Lisa Brown." His gaze was fixed in my direction. Everyone turned to look at me, their eyes filled with envy and jealousy. "Emma, can you help me collect the prize? I'm not feeling well and I need to leave." I picked up my coat and left the venue. Emma happily collected the prize on my behalf. I knew what James Foster's look meant. I knew him too well. After all, I was the one who had known him for 7 years, married him for 3, and then divorced him. James and I met in college. He was from the north, came from a modest background, but was very hardworking, eventually getting into this prestigious college in the south. He said he loved the southern climate and the local culture. He was tall, handsome, with fair skin, and his clean white shirt had a faint floral scent, making him shine in the corner of the classroom. Naturally, many people liked him, including me. I was bold and would strike up conversations with him, asking about calculus problems he didn't understand. I took him to eat hot pot outside the school, watching him almost cry from the spiciness. I was happy, being his friend. But I didn't take it further, carefully maintaining our friendship. Until one day during a club activity, we played Truth or Dare, and I lost, choosing Dare. I was instructed to kiss a guy I had just met for 5 minutes. The demand was outrageous, and I was about to protest. But the usually gentle-tempered James stood up and splashed the person who gave the instruction with a drink. His tone was cold and his gaze was sharp. "Keep your dirty thoughts to yourself. Lisa is not someone you can joke about." Then he took my hand and walked away from there. James walked silently ahead, his hand soft and warm. "Thank you. I'll go back to my dorm now." I let go of his hand, not wanting him to see the blush on my face. He turned and looked at me, his gaze intense and bright. "I like you. Will you be with me? As long as I'm around, I won't let anyone hurt you. I'll cherish and protect you." The greatest temptation in the world is when the boy you secretly love sincerely tells you he likes you. I admit, I fell for it. James was very good to me, and time passed quickly with him. Soon it was time to graduate. We had both planned to stay in the city. I had already found a job as an art manager, with a promise to help me hold exhibitions. James also started sending out resumes. On graduation day, we held hands and laughed as we tossed our caps. Just as I turned, he knelt on one knee, full of emotion. "Even if I have nothing, I want to give you the best in the world. Life is short, and I want to hold your hand and grow old together. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down my face as I nodded excitedly. He put a ring on my finger, and I was so nervous I could hardly breathe. Amidst the cheers around us, we hugged sweetly, and time seemed to stop, with only each other in our eyes. Late at night, seeing my mom's bedroom light off, I sneaked back home. I remembered she kept the household registration book in her wardrobe. Tiptoeing, I opened it and found the book. Smiling, I was about to leave when the light turned on. Mom looked puzzled, but when she saw what I was holding, her face changed. "What are you doing with the household registration book?" I told the truth. "I want to marry James." Mom had met James and had a good impression of him, so I thought she wouldn't object. But I was wrong. Mom's face tightened. "Dating is one thing, marriage is another." "I don't agree." "Why?" "Just because he's not local. Because his family is poor and you look down on him?" My voice rose involuntarily. Mom had raised me alone since I was a child, and I had always been considerate, never arguing with her. But this was different. Mom grew angrier and snatched the book from me. "You're still young, just handing your future to a man? You need to think carefully, or else." "Or else what?" I glared at her, blurting out. "Or else I'll end up like you, with a man like Dad. Dating you while already married with kids, leaving you with a bad reputation and then abandoning you heartlessly." I regretted it as soon as I said it. It was her deep-seated wound, and I had opened it. Mom's eyes reddened, her hand raised but never fell. "I'm sorry, Mom. But James isn't like that. He promised to love me forever." I snatched the household registration book back and quickly left home. Downstairs, James saw me crying. He held me tenderly and kissed my lips. "Thank you, Lisa. You won't regret this decision." We got our marriage certificate. When I got home that day, Mom hysterically threw all my belongings out. "No man is good. You believe whatever he says. If one day he doesn't love you and leaves you, what will you do? Don't come crying to me. I don't have a daughter like you." Maybe she was just angry, but my stubbornness flared up too. That day will never come. I resolutely picked up my luggage and left home. Like a pitiful puppy, I cried in James's arms. "Mom doesn't want me anymore. I don't have a mom." He gently wiped my tears with his thumb. "Come with me, Lisa. Let's leave here and go north. From now on, I'll be your family." To save money, we took a long train ride. 2 days and 1 night, and I was terribly nauseous. The concern on James's face was overwhelming. He fed me medicine, coaxed me to sleep, his voice full of endless affection. "Sleep, baby. You'll feel better when you're asleep." He got up, and I instinctively held him tight. "Don't leave me." A hand gently stroked my head. "I won't ever leave you." Back then, I would never have known that in this world, forever didn't exist. I took the household registration book and married James. There were few painting jobs in this city, so I became a designer, often working overtime and dealing with endless revisions and meaningless lectures from the boss. I felt exhausted. James was also busy, leaving early and returning late, even working on rest days. Sometimes we didn't speak for a whole day. Occasionally, I felt like we were just living together out of convenience, but I quickly dismissed the thought. We were truly in love, not just making do. I often dreamt of Mom's disappointed and sad face. I wanted to call her, ask how she was, tell her not to work night shifts just to earn extra money. Suddenly, in my dream, Mom's face twisted, waking me in an instant. My lower abdomen hurt, and something was flowing out. James wasn't in bed. The pain intensified, and I called out for him. After a while, he ended a call with a client and came in, a flash of impatience in his eyes. "What's wrong, Lisa? Didn't I tell you to sleep first? This client is very important to me." When he saw the blood, he panicked and rushed me to the hospital. I had suffered a loss. I didn't even know I was pregnant. The baby was gone before I even knew it existed. James, guilt-ridden, held my hand tightly. "Lisa, stop working. I can support you." He was clearly more tired than me, having just been promoted to a management position, working overnight regularly. I wanted to refuse, but he continued. "I don't want you to feel any pressure. Just be a happy housewife by my side. I'll work, you relax." I can support you." His eyes were firm and passionate, like the day he confessed to me in college. Thankfully, time hadn't changed his love for me. I nodded lightly, agreeing. But little did I know, this love would shatter in just 3 months. Not long after I was discharged, James returned to his busy work schedule. One day, he came home reeking of alcohol. After I fed him some hangover soup, he fell asleep. While cleaning up, his phone rang on the table. It was a local number. I intended to hang up but, on a whim, answered it. "Hello? Who is this?" There was no response. After a few seconds, the call ended as if they had heard my voice and hung up. A strange feeling surged in me. I opened James's phone. It was the first time. I never liked snooping through his phone. I trusted him completely. His chat history was clean, mostly clients, with me pinned at the top. I searched for words like love, miss, like. Most messages were with me, nothing suspicious. Just as I was about to put down the phone, I thought of searching home. A stranger's profile picture caught my attention. Her latest message was, "Are you home yet?" The girl was enthusiastic from the start. "Mr. Foster, I'm the new intern, Emma. I admire you a lot and hope to learn more from you." James was distant, responding with 1 or 2 words. The girl shared everything, from finding a kitten on the road to office gossip, to what she ate daily, never missing a good night. She sent candid photos of his back, praising his handsomeness. Gradually, James's responses increased. "Such a cute kitten. Work hard, don't slack off. Ask me if you have any questions. Eat more. You're too thin. There's a nice private kitchen, I'll take you there next time. Good night to you too, sweet dreams." Until a few days ago, she sent a shy emoji. "It still hurts from last night." James replied with a kiss and hug emoji. It was the night he rushed out after a phone call, saying he had work. Turns out, he was busy with her in bed. Their chat started 3 months ago, coinciding with my loss. In just 3 months, he had changed, throwing away years of our relationship for the thrill of a new affair. The phone slipped from my hand and tears fell. I secretly set up location sharing on his phone. I didn't want to leave any dignity behind. When he told me he had to work late again, I gathered a group of friends and burst into the hotel room where he and the woman were. Laughably, his first reaction was to cover her with a blanket, gently comforting her as he did me on the train. "It's okay, don't be afraid. I'll handle this." His solution was simple. Coldly, like a stranger, he handed me divorce papers. "Even if I cheated, you shouldn't have brought so many people to make a scene. It's my shame and yours too. I'm disappointed. The Lisa I knew wouldn't have made such a scene." I received no apology, only his baseless accusations. With red eyes, I tore up the divorce papers, refusing to divorce him, even if it meant dragging this out forever. His eyes grew colder, spitting out one word. Crazy. Unexpectedly, Emma sought me out. She was timid, her eyes filled with fear of me. She cried, begging for forgiveness, saying she would resign and leave, asking me not to blame James. Before I could speak, James appeared. "Talk to me if you have the guts. Bullying a young girl?" He growled. Emma cried harder. "James, I'm not worth it. You should make up with your wife. Come with me, ignore this lunatic," he said, taking her hand. "I say it's worth it," he insisted. I laughed. No wonder Emma chose a cafe near their company, right by the window. Lunatic? I could be crazier. I printed over 100 photos from the hotel confrontation, plastering them all over his office and handing them out to everyone. I stormed into the meeting room, hysterically crying about his infidelity. 7 years of knowing each other, 3 years of marriage, all trumped by 3 months with an intern. Just as he said, I was a shrew. He drove me mad. I had only him left. His boss suspended him, and colleagues looked at him with disdain. He conceded. Work brought him money and power. Without it, he was a fish gasping for air. He cut ties with Emma, and we seemed to return to how things were. But it was just a fad. I exhibited intense control over him, making him come home on time, even bringing me to social events. At home, I anxiously checked his phone, suspecting and arguing at the slightest misstep. My hair fell out in clumps, and I was filled with resentment. I had become the very person I once despised. Then the call came. "Lisa, your mom suffered a brain hemorrhage. It's serious. Come back quickly." It was Auntie's voice. Panicking, I bought 2 plane tickets for the earliest flight. I called James, and after a long wait, he answered. "What now? Didn't I tell you I was working late? I even sent you a video. What more do you want?" His tone was full of impatience and blame. My voice trembled. "Mom's in the hospital. It's serious. I need to see her. Will you come with me?" He was silent for a long time before replying. "All right." I waited at the airport for a long time, but he never showed. Calling him yielded no response. If I didn't board, I'd miss the flight home. Sighing, I went in alone. Auntie had lied. Mom's condition wasn't serious. When I arrived at the hospital, she was on her last breath, an oxygen tank sustaining her. I held her hand, rough and thin, sobbing and begging her not to leave me. "I haven't taken you on trips like I promised. Don't leave me, Mom. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left, shouldn't have disobeyed you, shouldn't have said those hurtful things." Tears welled in her eyes as she tightly gripped my hand, her mouth slightly open. I leaned in. "Be happy." Then she closed her eyes and passed away. I broke down, crying uncontrollably. "I'm happy, Mom. James treats me well. He said he'd bring you to live with us. Don't go, Mom. You promised to stay with me. You promised." I didn't know how long I cried until Auntie reminded me it was time to say goodbye. She became a small box in my hands. After settling her affairs, Auntie told me Mom often wanted to call but feared disturbing my life. She regretted being so harsh back then. She regretted not reasoning with me properly. She regretted letting me leave without holding me tight and saying, "Daughter, I can't bear to see you go." I returned home, the place I had lived for over 20 years, feeling lost and desolate. It was still as clean as ever. My room remained unchanged, with my photos adorning the walls and Mom's scent lingering on the bed. Had she been sleeping here for years? I curled up, hugging a pillow and sobbing. I really didn't have a mother anymore. This was heaven's punishment for me. I kept calling James, wanting him to come and pay respects to Mom and apologize with me. But his phone was always off. A sense of foreboding crept into my heart. I flew back north, but there was no sign of James at home. I guessed he must have gone to that place. Rain began to fall from the sky. Sure enough, there he was, standing under an umbrella, holding Emma's hand outside her house. They walked slowly, as if trying to hold on to time. "James!" Emma stopped, looking dejected. "If we could live like this forever, how wonderful would that be?" Her nose twitched, and she forced a smile. "I'm sorry, I'm being greedy. I shouldn't have such extravagant hopes. Just being with you for these few days has made me very happy." The next second, James pulled her into his arms, his brows full of tenderness. "Don't apologize. I promise you, there will be such a day." They kissed passionately in the rain, like star-crossed lovers undeterred by any storm. For a moment, I felt like the intruder in their relationship. Mom's last words echoed in my mind. "Be happy." Am I happy? Trapped in a vortex involving the three of us, the one hurt the most was me. What was I holding on to? The beautiful memories of the past? But connecting those memories to the present scene was utterly ironic. Was I holding on to the old James? But people's hearts change, and it's a hateful thing. At that moment, everything felt meaningless. I dried my eyes. The idea of forever is the most hypocritical statement. The next morning, I pushed open the door to James's office. He looked up, surprised. "How's your mom? The company has a new project, and I can't get away. Once this is over, I'll go back with you to see her." "See?" He could lie without even blushing. I didn't answer his question and pulled out the divorce agreement from my bag, placing it in front of him. A flash of joy crossed his eyes, and he couldn't help but smile, his voice trembling. "You want a divorce? Really?" It was as if a long-awaited wish was about to come true. He seemed incredulous, his voice full of doubt. "What do you want? As long as it doesn't affect my work, you can have the house and the car." I smiled indifferently. "I just want money." James breathed a sigh of relief. Since I had made a demand, he let down his guard and quickly signed his name without a hint of hesitation. How ridiculous. "See you at the Civil Affairs Bureau in a month when the cooling-off period is over," I said, turning to leave. He called out to me. I turned back to look at him, his emotions complex and unreadable: joy, excitement, and a bit of melancholy. "Lisa, after 7 years, I did love you. I hope you can live well from now on." I sneered. "Stop pretending. How I live has nothing to do with you. You should hurry and share this good news with her." His face turned sour, probably because I hit the nail on the head or because I denied him even the chance to maintain his facade. But I didn't care anymore. On the day we finalized the divorce, his face was grim. He held my hand, and from his expression, I couldn't tell if there was any reluctance. How strange. I also felt disdain. "Let me treat you to a meal, okay?" I agreed, but secretly took a taxi to the airport after telling him I needed to use the restroom. This was my final act of revenge, making him experience the agony of waiting. It felt childish in retrospect. When I got off the plane, the taxi driver commented, "Miss, your luggage is very light." I had only brought an empty suitcase, a gift from my mother for my coming-of-age ceremony, my most cherished possession. Everything else was tainted with memories of James. I didn't want any of it. I left it all behind. In the empty, quiet house, I stared blankly at my mom's photo. "Mom, I promise you. From now on, I will live happily for both of us." James gave me a 7-figure sum. I realized then how wealthy he was. The saying that men turn bad when they have money seemed true. I started a new life, found a new job as a designer, and painted in my spare time. Holding an art exhibition had always been my dream. The past 6 months had been busy but fulfilling. During this time, my aunt was eager to set me up on dates. But most men were self-centered, unwilling to give but always wanting to receive. Their acting was poor. One odd guy even told me he couldn't marry anyone else and begged for a chance, only to announce his relationship with another woman the next day. As I was gossiping with Emma at a staff meeting, James appeared. I hadn't expected to see him again, let alone as my superior. I submitted my resignation the next day, but he rejected it immediately. Fine. I returned to my desk and started packing. The supervisor was furious and stormed over. "The CEO didn't approve your resignation. Where do you think you're going? And the project isn't done yet. Where are your design drafts?" I glared at him. I had always found him annoying, a design supervisor who knew nothing about design, always demanding revisions only to end up using the first draft. If it weren't for the convenience of being close to home, saving commuting time so I could paint in the evenings, I wouldn't have stayed. What kind of attitude is that? The supervisor grabbed my hand, his face contorting with anger. "Mr. Johnson, let go." Mr. Johnson frowned, thinking it was some junior staffer, but when he turned, he saw James's stern face. His arrogance disappeared instantly, and he bowed with a smile. "Mr. Foster, I was just talking to Lisa. Talking requires hands? What kind of attitude is that?" James looked displeased. Mr. Johnson, embarrassed, quickly let go and stepped back. James pushed him aside and walked up to me. "Come to my office," he said softly. When I didn't move, he grabbed my hand and pulled me in. I tried to break free, but his grip was too strong. Colleagues whispered and gossiped, while Mr. Johnson's face turned ashen. In the office, the atmosphere was tense. "Why do you want to leave?" James asked. "Do you need to ask?" "Because of you." He wasn't angry, instead, his tone softened. "You've changed in 6 months. You've become even more beautiful." I scoffed. "You've changed too. You've become shameless." I didn't want to talk to him and turned to leave. He grabbed my hand again, his eyes sincere. I could see his face up close, his breath warm against my ear. "I'm here for you, Lisa." Disgust churned in my chest. I wanted to slap him but held back, afraid it would hurt my hand. "Then, for my sake, get lost, okay?" Taking a deep breath, I turned and left quickly, not looking back. Half a year ago, his eyes were devoid of any emotion. Why pretend to be affectionate now? At home, I made spicy chicken. The crispy, tender chicken with fiery, aromatic flavors, paired with my homemade wine, was incredibly satisfying. James didn't like this dish, so I never made it when we were together. Now alone, I didn't have to cater to anyone's taste. I was free to do as I pleased. After cleaning up, I went to my study to paint. The sound of rain outside provided the perfect white noise, helping me focus. I loved nights like this, my time, immersed in my world. Taking a deep breath, I finally finished the oil painting. The rain had stopped. I stretched and went to the balcony, only to see a familiar figure downstairs. My heart sank and my good mood vanished. James was drenched, staring up at me. His gaze was intense, almost tangible. I felt nauseated. I fetched a large basin of water, mixed in the cheapest paint, and threw it at him before slamming the window shut. That felt good. I slept until noon, humming a tune as I put on my shoes, ready to go out. Recently, I had posted my paintings online and gained many admirers. A manager had contacted me, offering to help organize an exhibition. We had a lunch meeting, and from his voice, he sounded mature, probably middle-aged. Opening the door, I found James crouched there soaked, with his expensive suit stained in various colors. He looked exhausted, but his eyes lit up when he saw me. "What do you want? Stop disturbing my life," I said, exasperated. His throat moved as he struggled to speak. "I'm sorry. I didn't know your mom had passed away." Touching a nerve, I gave him no sympathy, my eyes cold. "You have no right to call her that. I called you countless times, begging you to come back, but you didn't answer. Now you come to repent? Too late. Move, you're in my way." He grabbed my wrist. "I know it's too late for apologies. Emma tricked me, claiming she was in danger. That's why I went to her. I couldn't resist, but it was just a one-night stand. She seduced me." I shook off his filthy hand, disgusted. "A fly doesn't land on a seamless egg. Emma seduced you, but you're no saint either." He persisted. The moment I got the marriage certificate, I regretted it. Every day with Emma, I thought of you. Please, give me another chance. Fine, if you insist on pestering me. I lifted my foot wearing 8-centimeter heels and stomped on his shoe. He winced but didn't let go. I stomped harder, and he finally released me with a cry of pain. "If you come near my home again, I'll call the police." With that, I walked away without looking back. The person helping with my exhibition was named Alex Parker. When I met him, I was surprised. He wore a white shirt and black framed glasses, exuding a scholarly air. He looked harmless, like a young boy. "Hello, Miss Brown," he greeted, his voice a deep bass, contrasting with his youthful appearance. He wasn't cunning like a typical businessman and was straightforward in negotiations, accommodating many of my requests. "Let's take a walk. The stars are beautiful tonight," Alex suggested. We sat on the lawn, the night sky adorned with stars like pearls. "I love your painting of the couple kissing passionately under the stars, their eyes filled with love," he said. I smiled bitterly. It was a college piece painted after James confessed to me. I was happy and immersed in the thrill of love. Who could have predicted the mess it would turn into now? Just as I was about to speak, I felt a sharp pain at my ankle. A snake had bitten me. Startled, Alex quickly used his shirt to scare it away. Seeing the wound, he scooped me up without a word. "You've been bitten. I'm taking you to the hospital." Pressed against his strong chest, my ears turned red. I had to admit, this boy had a good physique. Fortunately, the blood tests showed no venom. After bandagging, the doctor prescribed medicine and recommended an overnight stay for observation. Alex, feeling responsible, insisted on staying with me. As he helped me out of the clinic, a familiar, shrill voice rang out. Well, playing innocent while flirting with a younger guy. Typical. Got hurt? Trying to win James back with pity? Copycat, no matter how many times you try, you can't pull off my tricks. It was Emma. She had lost her previous fragile demeanor, her eyes burning with hatred. I ignored her, asking Alex to help me to dinner. Not speaking? Feeling guilty? I knew you were faking indifference during the divorce. Have you been in touch with him all along? Shameless! Her shrill voice drew many onlookers. Unable to tolerate it, I was about to retaliate when a figure appeared. Seeing Alex by my side, James's face darkened. He grabbed Emma and flung her aside, pointing a finger at her. Manipulative. You set me up that night. If you hadn't lied about being harassed, I wouldn't have gone out or spent the night with you. I didn't know what had happened between them, but it seemed he realized what kind of woman Emma was. Did he regret it, realizing I was the better choice? I curled my lips in a disdainful smile. Emma's eyes turned red, dropping her act, and clung to him, preventing him from approaching me. I came all this way for you, and this is how you treat me. You said you loved me, didn't want to go near that old hag Lisa, and would protect me forever. Have you forgotten? See? That's how he insulted me, an old hag. How laughable. James's face turned livid. He raised his hand and slapped her repeatedly. Emma, clutching her face, sat on the ground in disbelief, tears streaming down. We're over. Don't follow me anymore. His gaze was icy. What he had done to me was now happening to Emma. The show over, I signaled Alex to help me leave. Wait. James approached. I thought he would grab me again, but he knelt, his head bowed like a repentant prisoner, his voice hoarse. Lisa, can you love me again? Tears streamed down his face. I knew he was sincere at that moment. My ex-husband, my ex-boss, had thrown away all his pride and dignity to win me back, gambling on my soft heart. I shook my head, not saying a word, and let Alex lead me away. He forgot my heart had long died. When I screamed hysterically, and he was indifferent. When I became a shadow of myself, and he was cold and disdainful. It had already died. Eat more. Alex brought a large plate of food, his concern evident. Sorry you had to see that. It's okay. I get it. He made a mistake but doesn't want to lose you. Ugliness and wishful thinking, where in the world does such a thing exist? Everyone must pay for their choices. That's life. I nearly choked on my food, finding his mature words amusing, contrasting with his youthful face. My mood lightened. After more than a month of preparation, my exhibition finally opened. Unexpectedly, it received high praise from many professional artists. I learned that Alex, despite his young age, was the director of a renowned local art gallery. Without his help, I couldn't have organized it so quickly. On the last night of the exhibition, a man entered and stopped before a painting. It depicted a couple kissing passionately, burning their best years in sincere love. But this too would change with time. Below the painting, the artist had left a note. I am a mere passerby, along with the breeze and the moon. The man hunched, trembling and sobbing softly. At that moment, he finally accepted the truth. The woman he had hurt no longer loved him. He had to bear the most painful consequences of his choices. 3 months later, I sat on a plane to France. I had successfully applied to study at an art school in Paris, my dream school. A new chapter in my life was about to begin, filling me with nervous excitement. In my clumsiness, I spilled coffee and couldn't find a tissue. My seatmate handed me a pack of tissues. His hand was long and clean, with well-defined knuckles. "Thank you," I said, accepting it. Wait, that hand and the black watch looked familiar. I glanced at the man's face. Alex smiled at me, his eyes shining like the stars. What a coincidence. Yes, what a coincidence.